Office, North Georgia's only live online morning show. I am your host, BKP. Glad to be back here this Monday morning. Hold on just a minute. Stay with me here. I do not see any way. Good morning. Did you have a good weekend? It was a great weekend, warm weekend, a lot of activities, a lot of things going on. Many of you had a lot of fun time out on the lake. I seen the pictures, everybody went out to eat. There's not enough time this morning to do every story we have to do, but we're going to work on it as hard as we can and get all the information to you. First of all, I want to start and thank Clint Waltrip. He is just an outstanding guy. I mean, he's a first-class guy. I don't have his picture. We'll get it up later on the morning report. Kiss the Pig. We'll make sure, Lonnie, we get his picture on the morning report. Kiss the Pig. Be a child's hero. Gilmer County Foster and Adopt. 1-877-210-KIDS. That's Gilmer County Foster and Adopt. 1-877-210-KIDS. Be a child's hero. Clint Waltrip, you're a hero to me. You raised a lot of money. I think I know just $400. People paid up to $400 to see Clint kiss a pig, but it all goes to a good cause. The Gilmer County Foster and Adopt. So we'll have more information on that. That was great to go down there and see that. Saturday went down to the tomato sandwich fiesta for the Pickens GOP. Got a chance to sit down with Congressman Tom Graves. We're going to talk about that a little later. I did about a 10-minute audio interview. We will have that up. We will do that story about 9 o'clock this morning. At 8:30, we have Carla coming in. Today's Monday. We do Carla's Corner, see what's going on around the Gilmer County area as far as the Chamber of Commerce is concerned. So that'll be at 8:30 this morning. Now, a couple things I want to go over. I want to ask you a couple questions. What happened to the guy that was headed to California with a carload of weapons to blow up the Gay Pride Parade? Now, it's interesting. I received an email this morning. I was reading this past week, a story on this gentleman, Hal, and I received a great email this morning that went pretty in detail of supposedly what could have happened with Hal. But you remember, just hours after the Orlando massacre, this guy was stopped. Weapons, chemicals to make a bomb. Say he was headed to a gay pride parade in California. We're going to talk about that a little later today. They're not going to talk about that story anywhere else. Folks, today the Senate will take up 4 measures, okay, to take weapons of war off the streets. Now, you need to call all your neighbors, send out emails. You know, you got a contact list. Go through your contact list, everybody you've ever emailed in your life. You need to get to work on calling your neighbors, your contacts, everything, sending out emails, and helping people understand. Now, you may say, who does not understand that these are not weapons of war? A lot of people do not, and the media is trying to drive this narrative, weapons of war, from the President of the United States, Department of Justice, Hillary Clinton, every Democrat congressman, some Republican, weapons of war off the street. You have to stop that. You need to get the word out. These are not weapons of war. Now, the Senate is going to discuss 4 things today. There's going to be 4 things that they need to get 60 votes on. The 72-hour notification on a watch list. Okay, if you're on a watch list and it pings, whether it's a terrorist watch list, whether it's a no-fly list, and it pings 72 hours for the FBI to clear you. Suspicious activity. If you walk into a gun shop just like Omar did and want to buy body armor, They're going to look at suspicious activity. Okay? Background checks, record sharing. Those are the 4 things that are going to be on the floor today in the Senate. 72-hour watch list, suspicious activity, background checks, and record sharing. Because you got to remember, folks, the President of the United States said, if it happens again, it's your fault. They do not feel any of these will pass. They don't feel they'll get 60 votes for any of these measures today. There's 4 going to be on the floor of the Senate. And the whole ideal is so that they could push this right into the election, knowing something else could happen, may happen, and may be planned to happen. And it's because you did not act. We told you this was going to happen. This is all a setup, folks. All a setup because they told you this was going to happen. You know, I don't understand why the enemy can profile us and determine that they want to go after gay, and they want to go after the LGBT community, and they want to go after Christian community, and they can profile us, but we can't profile them. I'm going to talk a little later about Puerto Rico. The Supreme Court says no. The House says yes, okay, to restructuring Puerto Rico's debt. I talked to Congressman Tom Graves about that this weekend also. That's in my interview. All right, this morning, Joe Scarborough says he did a 30-minute, again, MSNBC, but this is what he said this morning. He said, it's a disgrace. Trump is appealing to the lowest common denominator, okay? Lowest common denominator. And this was actually said on this show, Morning Joe. Trump is doing well with grease monkeys. You know, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Remember when Putty didn't like the term grease monkey? But that's who Trump is doing well with grease monkeys. I'm telling you, folks. They even said on MSNBC this morning he won against a weak field. He won the primary against a weak field, okay? They did a 30-minute takedown. Not once in 30 minutes of Morning Joe did they discuss the 911 calls that were made from Omar, the transcripts that were going to be released today that your government is going to edit so you don't hear certain things because they don't want you to know who the enemy is or they don't want to identify the enemy. The Justice Department is going to cut out from the FBI's 911 transcripts of Omar's calls the night of the massacre. It's going to cut them out. Not one word for 30 minutes. Not one word, okay? Now, Donald Trump says we must use common sense. Now, here's a novel idea, right? Let's use some common sense. You know, all your news networks I watched, all 4 Sunday shows, they're out there and they're saying, common sense, no. It just can't be. There has to be some other way we could look at all of this. Common sense cannot be taken into consideration. All right? Where the attack is on Donald Trump, don't worry. Don't worry about that. I mean, I'm hearing numbers like 4 points down in some areas, 7 in another. You look at, Bush was down to Kerry at this time by these numbers. I think at one time they said, I seen a report that said Ronald Reagan was down by these numbers at this point. Don't get nervous on this, okay? And no, I did not watch basketball. I do not like NBA basketball. No, Cleveland is now a city of champions. Really? Okay. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. College baseball, though. Okay, I stayed up way too late watching Coastal Carolina. All right, I watched Coastal Carolina way too late last night. Okay. Do you still think Omar was gay? I told you from day one. Do you still think that? This is all coming out from the research on Omar. Omar was a troubled youth. Folks, we're going to see, you're going to see we need to hire behavioralist professionals and put them in our grade schools to identify potential terrorists. You're going to see that. You're going to see that, okay? Omar was a troubled youth. Now I know what the problem is with Jihad John, who beheaded James Foley. He had a troubled childhood. Really? Really? That's what we're looking into. That's what we're learning. We're learning more this morning on how Omar had a troubled youth, his childhood. So we're going to need to hire behavioralist, the specialist, to go in the schools to see. Now, one more thing I want to bring up. Omar was born to Afghan immigrants. That has upset so many people that Donald Trump said that he was born to Afghan immigrants. And Trump's mother happened to be an immigrant. You know what? I don't know if you're going to like this or not, but Omar was born to Afghan immigrants, not Irish immigrants. I know you didn't like that. There's a difference, okay? There's definitely a difference. We're going to talk about so many different things this morning, but Loretta Lynch, we're focused on learning as much as we can. Then why can't we hear him pledge allegiance to ISIS? Loretta Lynch went out, Department of Justice, okay? She went out yesterday, the Attorney General, to all four, every morning show, 4 or 5, okay? Now remember something. Think about the last time the White House sent someone out to every morning show. Everyone. That was as information was going to come in from Benghazi. Remember that? They sent Loretta Lynch out to every single morning show. She said, we're focused on learning as much as we can. Why can't we hear the total 911, his allegiance to ISIS? Why can't we? We can't hear that. She said we need more behavioral studies. We need more behavioral studies, okay? We need to study behavior more. Now, if they put people on a watch list, this has even come from FBI, the head of the FBI, Comey, who said, a watch list has not been adjudicated. Now, folks, we have innocent till proven guilty in this country. And if you happen to be on a terrorist watch list and a no-fly list, maybe you just don't get to come in the country, period. But I'm telling you right now, suspicious activity. I mean, there's going to be, if you do certain internet searches, you're going to be considered suspicious activity. All right? It has not been adjudicated, these watch lists. They're dangerous. We need to be careful of them. Everything they're doing today is planned to give the Department of Justice tools. Okay? That's what she says, Loretta Lynch, Sunday on the shows. These possible new laws that they're trying to pass would give the Department of Justice the tools, new tools to work with, is what she said. Folks, that's equal to more control. They continue to use, in the narrative, they use Fort Hood, the Boston bomber, San Bernardino, okay, San Bernardino, Orlando. They have put Charleston and Newtown right in the list. Anytime, right in the list, okay? NBC did a whole hour yesterday, never said the word Muslim, okay? They don't know how to cover Trump because they don't understand how to report the truth. They don't know how to cover him because they don't understand how to report the truth. They don't recognize common sense. That is what's going here. All right. The media is driving the story, folks, wanting to drive the story that there's going to be an uprising of delegates at the GOP convention. It's not going to happen, okay? Paul Ryan's not president of the United States. He's not the big boss of anything, okay? He just recently stood on the House floor and agreed with Nancy Pelosi and Obama over restructuring Puerto Rico's debt. And I'm going to read his quote in a minute, okay? There is no major plan to upstage Trump at the Republican convention. This is all media driven. You have a couple people out there that are talking about it, but there's no real organized effort to do that. So don't let that bother you. Number two, there's not an organized effort by Donald Trump to do something on your Second Amendment and cause a rift between him and the NRA. You heard that this weekend, all the reports. That is media driven off also. The NRA and Donald Trump are not at odds. Donald Trump, see, here's what the media can't handle. Donald Trump said, you know what? I could think about, and I'm not quoting him, I could think about a terrorist watch list. You should not buy a gun. You know what? I think I'll go meet with the NRA and see what we can't talk about there. That's it. That's it. That has been blown all the way through the roof. And there's nothing happened. That was majorly blown up everywhere. What if Donald Trump is going to meet with the NRA and they're going to, it's going to come to blows. Donald Trump's already gone back on his promises. Look, a guy that wants to take the rights away from you to have a gun is not the same guy that says, I would shoot the SOB right between the eyes. That's not the same guy, people, okay? The fact is, you know what? Donald Trump said, I'm going to sit down and meet with the NRA, and the media went wild over it. So there is not an effort, okay? There's not an effort in any way whatsoever to remove Trump as the nominee. It's not going to happen. Don't let that get confused. Trump is down a couple points according to some polls, okay? Trump needs to stay focused on common sense like he is doing right now. He doesn't need to move. He doesn't move the direction of the media. He doesn't need to get it under control for Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough. He doesn't need to do any of that. He needs to stay with what's working, the American people. And I tell you what, let me explain something to MSNBC that you missed. Let me explain something to Joe Scarborough. Can you get this message to Joe Scarborough for me, okay? Now, I want to bring this around because this is where they don't get it. The media that they think are elite. So let me explain this. Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough, everyone out there in the media, okay? We like grease monkeys. So if you say that Trump's appealing to a grease monkey, we're offended by that. Now, who are we? We're offended. Because guess what? Rich people, rich educated people, okay, they like a grease monkey because they got to take their car to get it fixed. And they usually know the guy or maybe woman technician in the shop. And they go in. They're rich. They're educated. They got a BMW. And they go in and they say, Johnny, how are you today? See, you didn't offend the grease monkey. You offended the guy that took his car to the grease monkey. Now, see, here's another thing you might not catch on to. Rich people, educated people, they like to work and drive their nice cars and live in the suburb, but they got to have somebody cut the grass because they're busy. So they like those people. They have to call somebody to build a deck on the back of the house. They like those people. Those people being people they like. So MSNBC, all of the media out there, when you are talking down to people, calling them a grease monkey, uneducated whites, the uneducated, let me tell you something. You see, As my dad would say, son, learn a trade. I encourage you to learn a trade, because I'm going to tell you something. Rich people will always need to call you to get something done, and they will. So I'm going to tell you, media, when you start talking about the lower class, when you make comments that Trump is appealing to the lower common denominator, and that's the quote this morning on MSNBC, there's a lot of people driving BMWs, a lot of people living in fancy houses, and a lot of people that are in office buildings that actually like the cleaning staff. That's right. That actually like the people cutting their grass, actually like the grease monkeys. So you may have offended a lot more people than just the lowest common denominator. It's 8:21. I'm going to move up. And that just really bothered me this morning to hear that, that they are judging people. The media is trying to make the division in the party. Do not worry about Cleveland, folks. It's summertime. People are not paying attention. Don't worry about delegates and an uprising. Don't worry about that. Now, a couple things we're going to need to talk about. Conservative Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas could be the next to retire. I read this article this weekend. Supreme Court makes some decisions today. We got some big Supreme Court decisions we're going to talk at 9 o'clock, okay? One being the abortion clinics in Texas, all right? One being immigration, with some big ones. But the news this morning is, hey, Clarence Thomas may be the next to leave. Now, Donald Trump did put out a very good, well-received from conservatives out there list of potential Supreme Court nominees. So we need to watch that. Another thing is Franklin Graham. Will the religious right, will the churches get involved in this election? Will the religious right come out? They didn't come out last time for Mitt Romney, but will they come out for Donald Trump? Well, Franklin Graham he's encouraging Christians need to shake up politics before it's too late. So Franklin Graham is really sounds like he's really going to get involved in this election, and there's an article out on that. Okay, Brexit. Do you know what Brexit is? Because this week is going to be the week you're going to hear a lot about Brexit. That is British, the United Kingdom, British exit from the EU. Now, I have a question. If the British people vote to leave the EU this week, which we'll talk about that a little more, I read some articles this weekend on Brexit, but if they vote to leave, why can't we vote to leave the UN, the World Trade Organization, and the Council on Foreign Relations? If they could do it, let's start now trying to vote as the American people to get out of the UN, the World Trade Organization, and the Council of Foreign Relations. I can't get out of the IMF that quick because that's our money, and most people don't realize the IMF is our money. Venezuela, they're fighting over a loaf of bread down there. Yep, that's right. That's right. Every time you stop at a Valerio, you remember Citgo? Was it Citgo that was owned by Venezuela, right? And we got all upset with Hugo Chavez, so they changed and they went to Valerio. And every time you buy that Valerio gas, okay, well, anyhow, that is Venezuela. They're fighting over that. Okay, folks, I want to talk a little bit about when I come back from break, I want to talk a little bit about, at the 9 o'clock hour, definitely the story about what happened to the guy that was headed to Orlando, okay? Not Orlando, headed to California from Indiana, that had weapons, chemicals in the trunk of the car to make a bomb, and told police that he was headed to California. This was just hours after Omar did what he did in Orlando. Headed to California to take out a gay pride parade. What happened to that guy? What happened to Hal? What happened to that story? Why did that story go away so quickly? Omar Oh, by the way, GOP, no Apple for you. Apple said they will not assist, help in any way whatsoever. The GOP convention in Cleveland will not. They will not send texts. They usually do. They will not send tech support, Apple products, iPads, notepads, whatever they are. They won't send them to the GOP convention in Cleveland. It said they did not feel that they should participate in something where the nominee has said degrading things about women, okay? Degrading things about women, disparaging things about Latinos. The list goes on. They just can't be a part of it. But hell now, if Donald Trump would have took a tank and ran somebody's ass over in Tiananmen Square, Apple could show up at the convention because that would be a little different because that's China where they make the iPhone. Folks, anything you hear about Apple in the foreign production of their products, okay, you will hear that they have done better with their slave labor and they have done better with women's rights and stuff like that in these foreign countries. That's only because they've been made to, not because they wanted to. So let a tank run somebody over in Tiananmen Square. Apple will build a phone in your country. But so no Apple for you in Cleveland. Folks, I am not interested in hearing about the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James. I have about zero for that. I could care less. I'm more interested in the College World Series. I watched last night, Oklahoma State. Now, UC Santa Barbara, they got to win. UC Santa Barbara is going to be playing Miami. I want them to win because their name's the Gauchos, and I just want to cheer for a team called Gauchos, okay? So anyhow, I want them to win. Arizona, I got to pick Arizona over Oklahoma State. Coastal Carolina, that's going to be tough, but I'm going to take Coastal Carolina over TCU. I love them taking out Florida last night, everything about it. Did you see the umpire there? Did you see the replay on the call last night where the ball hit the chalk on the foul line? Do you think they should have got 2 runs or 1? Am I the only one that watched this, or did all of you watch LeBron James, a grown man, cry? I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from the office. Yes, it's Monday. I couldn't wait to get here. When I come back, it's going to be time for Carla's Corner. We're going to talk about what's going on in North Georgia and what all's happening last weekend, this weekend. Let me get a list here. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors. If you'd like to be a sponsor of our show, get in touch with us, 706-889-9700, 706-889-9700, or text or send us an email, chief@fetchernews.com, chief@fetchernews.com. Day Chevrolet, located in Jasper, 515 Jasper. Circuit World, promotional code FetcherNews. L&L Beanery, downtown Blue Ridge Coffee Shop. Salon 84 Hair and Color, West Church Street, Jasper. Make your appointment today, 706-253-9876. Clock Tower Gifts and Boutique, located in Jasper. Schottenkirk Ford, located on the southbound side, down there on 515 in Jasper. Plenty of cars and trucks to pick from. And the UPS store over here at East LJ. North Georgia Diamond, located in the East LJ Walmart Shopping Center. Promotional code FetcherNews. That's North Georgia Diamond, East LJ Walmart Shopping Center. Don't forget, promotional code FetcherNews.com. We'll be back after these brief messages, and we'll have Carla's Corner. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll get into my interview with Congressman Tom Graves. You'll be interested to hear what he calls the attack in Orlando. You'll be interested to hear what he calls the attack in Orlando. Almost like Speaker Paul Ryan said, this is how we want to frame what we are going to identify that attack as. Also, Puerto Rico. Hey, just run up debts, Puerto Rico, and then go to the Supreme Court. They say no. If you can't find a friend, where else can you find debt reconciliation and restructuring other than the House of Representatives? Thank you. We'll talk to him about that. I've been telling you about Puerto Rico for 6 months, folks. Puerto Rico for 6 months. But the good news is the House of Representatives says they're not going to use taxpayer money So how do you restructure their debt and allow them not to pay their friggin' bills that belong to the taxpayers that it invested? I don't know, just saying. I'm your host. We'll be back. Lonnie, take us to break.